at MMA here and online on the theme Sustainable Development Goals Marching Towards the Global Agenda. May I request you all who have assembled here particularly and those who are in the lobby to kindly adhere to the COVID protocol. We have made some arrangements here. In case somebody is not carrying a mask, you can please ask one of our volunteers to help you out with that. We also blocked some of the seats. We'll request you all to leave those seats which are blocked. Keep wearing the mask as long as the event is on. And we have included the question slips in the kit that has been given to you, and also a feedback form. So we request you all to kindly hand over the feedback form before you leave this place. And in case there is any question that you need to ask any of these speakers here, all the panelists later during the session, kindly fill it up with your name and hand over to us, and one of our volunteers will pick it up from you and give it to the panel. So we'll start the event in a few moments from now. Kindly settle down. So we're all set. So may I now request the distinguished dignitaries to please take their place on the dais. May I request Mr. C.V. Subbarao, President, Madras Management Association, Dr. R. Sujata, SD Associate Government of Tamil Nadu, Mr. Vikram Kapoor, Additional Chief Secretary, Planning and Development, Government of Tamil Nadu, and Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, Executive Director, to take their place on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also joined by Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman, President, Danfoss Industries Limited. Let's welcome them all with a round of applause, please. We're also thankful to the executives and staff from the Guidance Bureau, Department of Industries, Tamil Nadu. And to begin this excellent event this Friday morning on an auspicious note, may I request the dignitaries to join us in lighting the Kuttu Vilaka, please. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May I request all those who have gathered here and the dignitaries on the dais to please raise for the Tamil Thai Vartha.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் மனதமெனும் திகழ்மனத கண்டமிதில் அதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனன் திகழாடும் சிறு திரை நுடலும் தரிதனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம்பி என்று செய்ய மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே
Mr. C.V. Subbarao, the President, Madras Management Association, as currently heads the shipping business of Chennai-based multinational conglomerate, the Sanmar Group, as its managing director. He graduated from the Marine Engineering College, Kolkata, and completed MBA from the Open University Business School, Milton Keynes, UK. He is also an alumnus of the IIM Ahmedabad at the Seniors Leadership Program. May I now invite Mr. Subbarao to deliver the welcome address, please.
Good morning. It is indeed my privilege to deliver this welcome address at this special SDG conclave on the theme Sustainable Development Goals Marching Towards a Global Agenda. It's organized jointly by the Tamil Nadu government and Conrad Edna Stiftung. CSR Spark is a partner for the event. I consider it an honor to welcome this morning Mr. Vikram Kapoor, Additional Chief Secretary, Planning and Development, Government of Tamil Nadu, Dr. R. Sujata, SDG Associate, Government of Tamil Nadu, and Honorary Director, KIDI, Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman, President, Danfoss Industries Private Limited, and immediate past President, Madras Management Association. Distinguished panelists and the moderator during this panel discussion. I also take the opportunity to welcome the members of MMA from all over Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, invitees and guests from other partner organizations, and the large number of participants from all over the country who have joined us online this morning. As many of you are aware, MMA was established in 1956 with the aim of propagating management movement in this part of the country, and over the years, MMA has evolved into the largest management association in the country, with over 8,000 members organizing over 750 events a year. MMA has been adjudged the best management association in the country for the last 12 years in a row by the All India Management Association in recognition of its phenomenal contribution through numerous activities for management professionals, entrepreneurs, students, and the public at large. In the last 15 months or so, MMA has organized a wide range of online events reaching over 3 lakh participants in spite of the raging contagion. In September 2015, all 193 member states of the United Nations adopted a plan for achieving a better future for all, laying out a path over the next 15 years to end extreme poverty, fight inequality and injustice, and protect our planet. The Sustainable Development Goals, or Global Goals, are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and a more sustainable future for everybody. To meet the objectives of the strategic plan in line with the 2030 agenda, UNDP is implementing 6 cross-cutting approaches to development known as signature solutions. A strong, integrated way of putting our best work or distinctive skill set to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Fulfilling these ambitions will take an unprecedented effort by all the sectors in the society, and business has to play a very important role in the process. No matter how large or small, and regardless of the industry, all companies can contribute to the SDGs. The UN Global Compact asks companies to do business responsibly and then pursue opportunities to solve societal challenges through business innovation and collaboration. While the SDGs are universal, they will very much be addressed at the national level to map a shared approach among the government, business enterprises, NGOs, and the civil society. I take this opportunity today to assure the distinguished guests and the participants who have joined us today that MMA is already contributing to this effort and will do everything possible in furthering the SDG agenda. I'm sure the distinguished speakers in the expert panel during the conclave would provide us with great insights on all these issues, which all the participants are eagerly awaiting to listen to. I once again welcome all the distinguished delegates present here in person and thousands of viewers from all over the globe watching this program live. I wish you a pleasant day and a nice conclave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. R. Sujata, SDG Associate, Government of Tamil Nadu, and Honorary Director, KIDI, She has a doctorate in economics with special emphasis on women's empowerment. Nearly 30 years of working in the development sector in corporate, government, and NGO sectors, community-based organizations. She has worked with UNICEF, World Bank on projects. She is experienced in preparation of action plan for transformation of aspiration of deficit districts, Ramanathapuram and Virudhunagar. May I now invite Dr. Sujata to provide an overview of the conclave, please.
Thank you, sir. It's a great privilege to be here on this day when we are celebrating the UN SDG Day. It's supposed to be falling tomorrow. And we all signed up for the SDG framework and decided to follow it somewhere around 2015 and 2016. It was rolled out. And this year marks 5-year completion. And I think it's the right time to celebrate this day. And post-COVID, at a time when we are all looking at options and how we are going to reboot the economy, this is a great option to be here. And I welcome the panelists and all of you who are here to join together in this partnership. And very good morning to the distinguished speakers who are here and who have joined virtually, and also those friends who are here. And I think this, as part of the Global Goals Week, it is a time for pushing action on the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is a real time where we are looking at partnerships with the government, the civil society organizations, the corporate sector, which is having a great array of options and taking and leveraging the transformational aspect in terms of technology, in terms of reach across the world, and also creating champions for specific targets. And it is at this point I look and recall the statement of UNICEF Director of Research and Policy, when she says, Lawrence, who says, the children around the world are counting on us and we can't even count all of them. That's the situation which we are looking at now in the post-COVID period, and we are more and more concerned of the next generation and sustainability of the whole planet and the 5 Ps on which the Sustainable Development Framework is built. The planet P is the first and the foremost on which all of us are looking at, and we are built on working towards its prosperity and partnerships, and the people are the main force who will be working towards this. And we are looking at a peaceful coexistence and achieving prosperity. And in this time of COVID, when each of us have tried to look at local solutions and through global partnerships, I think that we are in a much more different period of time where we are reaching out more and more, and we understand the short span of life, and we want to contribute more to the development of the community and the society as a whole. The MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, are actually were meant to be done by governments, but Sustainable Development Goals are something different. Here there is a partnership. Here there is a possibility for all of us to come together. The government is there, the civil society organizations are there, businesses are there, and there are committed individuals. We have champions for specific causes. Recently, I read about a particular plumber in Maharashtra who was going around just, looking at the water saving principle by just looking and repairing the, taps. He was doing only that, but still he was contributing to the fact that he was able to save so much of water. That was documented. In terms of data, he was able to show us how much of water he was able to save. These are small initiatives that go to make a larger thing in terms of, when you look at it in terms of the society as a whole. And this conclave, I think, is meant actually to look at, those best practices of individuals, of corporate business houses in building, better tomorrow. And when we are looking at the strategic framework or the state indicator framework, or the national and the state, which we have developed this indicator framework, how each of us can contribute to building the indicator framework and making it, improving it in terms of a monitoring of those, that I think is a thing. And we could actually benefit in getting the data and seeing how we are improving from X to Y and transforming the whole process in terms of data. And sharing of data and best practices could be part of this initiative. And the state has stated its commitment in terms of providing, saying that it will make everything available to everyone. And that is nothing but the SDGs leaving no one behind, being stated in a very positive note, saying that there will be nobody will be left behind and we'll take everyone along. And in that, we would see that the civil society organization and corporates are also doing their little bit. But here comes the opportunity for us to work together and create the enough ripple and partnership to take the SDGs forward. So let this be an effort and start of a progress and path to share data, monitor progress, and create a ripple in the state, and so that we get noticed and take cognizance of each of our little contributions to make the SDGs happen in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata, for your perspectives. Look forward to hearing more from you during the panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vikram Kapoor is Additional Chief Secretary, Planning and Development, Government of Tamil Nadu. He is a 1988 batch officer of the Indian Administrative Service. Oh, really, sir? Okay. We have Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman, who is joining us online from New Delhi. This audience is familiar with Mr. Ravichandran. He is currently the President, Danfoss Industries India region, and is the immediate past president of MMA. He is a business leader with over 25 years of experience in various roles, ranging from sales and marketing strategy, general management, M&A, and globalizing businesses across Asia Pacific, Europe, and India. I now invite Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman to deliver the keynote address, please.
Yeah, thank you, Venkat. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay. So a very good morning, Mr. Kapoor, Mr. Subbarao, and Madam Sujata, and Group Captain. Thank you for inviting me. It's indeed, probably a wrong timing that I'm not in, in the MMA auditorium. It would have been great to be there, but nevertheless, I thought it would be great to kind of share my perspective, especially around the sustainable development agenda that is in front of us. And at the time at which the world is kind of grappling with the climate change agenda as well. Plus, there is quite a lot of focus around nations and companies and individuals, becoming a lot more embracing stakeholder capitalism. I think there is no better pivotal moment to really look at how do we kind of accelerate the enablers that can take us to the defined goals that the United Nations has set in front of us. I think when I look at the SDG targets, what India has kind of set, I think we have made some commendable progress in quite a number of areas. However, when I look into the future, the time that is available in front of us, which is just about another 7 to 9 years, there are 3 or 4 things that comes to my mind, which is extremely critical for India and critical for even states like Tamil Nadu. I think there are the biggest challenge that I see is that, our development has to be decoupled from energy. If we want to really achieve the sustainable development goal, energy access, energy transition, our development has to be decoupled. And to decouple energy from GDP, we need to really look at a lot more greater initiatives, both from public policy as well as from a deployment of a lot of technology, which again needs a lot of capital. But I think this is an extremely critical point because India is currently grappling with energy access and energy transition. As many of us know, over 400 million people in India are still deprived of, access to 24/7 clean energy and electricity. Given the fact that the world is kind of pushing everybody to move towards reducing dependence on fossil fuels, the energy transition challenge is also kind of in front of us. So I see a great opportunity for, even states like Tamil Nadu, to give an example, where today we have producing 35 gigawatts of electricity with 70% coming from coal, to really look at how do we actually make sure that we use this great opportunity of meeting the sustainable development goals by pivoting on the energy transition to more renewables and sustainable energy. So I think, energy decoupling is one important aspect that I wanted to leave you all with. The second important aspect to me is nutrition. I think nutrition for all is something which India has to focus a lot. I think as per the FAO statistics, we have more than 180 million children who are actually undernourished. And the biggest challenge with nutrition is that, we do not have a very strong, efficient supply chain model. Currently, we lose about 30 to 40% of the produce between the farm and the supermarket. But we also have a significant challenge, especially with what we produce, whether it is nutritious, because our first green revolution produced a lot of paddy and rice. But I think today what we lack is, good nutrition. I know there's been great initiatives by government on fortification and all kinds of newer technological interventions on nutrition. But I think fundamental to nutrition to me is the availability of a very strong, efficient cold chain infrastructure. We do not have a very efficient infrastructure across the country where seamlessly food moves from one point to the other at an optimal cost, and at the same time it reaches the larger masses across India. So I think fixing nutrition to me is fixing cold chain and fixing the infrastructure, and of course looking at what to produce and how much to produce and when to produce. I think this is another major challenge that is there in front of us, because if I give you two examples, the whole of Punjab, we produce a lot more, wheat. And I think you all probably know the difference between the Madhya Pradesh wheat and the Punjab wheat. So I think we really need to look at the nexus between food, water, and energy, because quite a lot of fresh water is being used as well, which is also an important element to drive the sustainability development agenda. So if we really need to address nutrition, I think we need to look at how do we tackle the food, water nexus, energy triangle, and also how do we address the nutritional requirements, where I think a lot more needs to be done on the right level of nutrition planning that is required for younger population of India. I think the third important thing in order to meet and drive the statistics part of the sustainable development goals favorable to India, to me, is about a business model innovation and leadership. I think just to give you a perspective, when you look around the world, especially with respect to climate change, a lot of very emerged economies or developed nations, the emissions have already peaked there. And the kind of initiatives that they are taking to become carbon neutral cannot be the path India can choose, or cannot be the path a state like Tamil Nadu can choose. So if we really want to, triple our GDP, either in India to 5 or 10 trillion, or in Tamil Nadu to 1 trillion by 2030, I think the leadership needs to demonstrate a very strong commitment to climate change and a very strong commitment to sustainable development goals. Simply because, this requires a lot of capital. Just to give you an idea, India needs about $100 billion of investment if we want to keep our climate temperature rise below 2.7 degrees, not even 1.5 degrees, 2.7 degrees temperature rise by the end of the century. So funding is going to be a massive challenge in meeting the sustainable development goals. So I think the kind of leadership that the nation needs to get, and the state needs to get in driving this agenda is very, very critical. And then the last point that I want to leave you all with is, climate change, sustainability, development goals are all great targets to have. But I think the 1.2 billion people I think we need to have all our hands on the deck if we really want to embrace sustainability. A lot of behavioral change that is needed, whether it is energy usage, whether it is water usage, whether it is the food we consume, unless we really adapt to newer behaviors, it is extremely difficult and challenging to meet the sustainable development goals. You can't bring technology to fix every behavior that mankind brings on the table today. So you really need to look at how do you balance technology adoption, balance the right level of leadership, right level of behaviors, because this is only will kind of create a holistic ecosystem where all the 1.2 billion people can look at achieving some targets here. And lastly, I'm extremely optimistic, because we see COVID as a pandemic, but I see climate change is equally a pandemic in front of us. But the kind of behavior we put in front of COVID, if we can put in front of climate change, we probably would have naturally met the sustainable development goals. So I think just to sum up, I think technology adoption is extremely, extremely important. Decoupling the food, energy, and food, energy, water nexus is very important in order to deliver the sustainability development goals. Providing the right kind of leadership and also changing the behaviors of the 1.2 billion people is extremely critical if India needs to deliver on its sustainable development targets. So thank you, Group Captain and Mr. Subbarao, for giving me an opportunity. And I will hand it back to Chennai. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ravi, for that insightful address. I think you made some very interesting points out there. Ladies and gentlemen, and much awaited inaugural address now. Mr. Vikram Kapoor is the Additional Chief Secretary, Planning and Development, Government of Tamil Nadu. He's a 1988 batch IAS officer, born on Tamil Nadu State cadre. He did his post-graduation in Public Policy and Management from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, University of New York. During his service, Vikram Kapoor has served in various capacities, including the district collector at Dundigal, Executive Director, T-Board, Government of India, MD and CEO, Tamil Nadu Urban Development Fund, Member Secretary, Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority, Chairman, Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, and Principal Secretary, Industries Department, Government of Tamil Nadu. May I now request Mr. Vikram Kapoor to deliver the inaugural address, please. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Presentation. Good morning to all of you. President of the MMA, Mr. Subbarao, Executive Director, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, Guest of Honor, Mr. Ravi Chandran, my colleague, Dr. Sujata, members of the Madras Management Association, my other colleagues from the government. First of all, my thanks to MMA for giving me this platform to talk about a subject that is extremely relevant in today's context. And I'm happy that I was preceded by Mr. Ravi Chandran, who highlighted the importance of sustainable development goals. I also appreciate Dr. Sujata for having put this event together along with MMA and for having given an introduction. I would utilize this opportunity to speak in some further detail about the concept of Sustainable Development Goals for those who may not be so familiar with it. And then I would like to highlight how government can partner with industry and the civil society in furthering the SDG agenda for India. This may be already known to most of you, but just to give you the perspective, the concept of Sustainable Development Goals was introduced way back in 2012 during the UN Conference on Sustainable Development held in Brazil. It discussed the various development agenda targets after 2015, because that was the time when the Millennium Development Goals would end. And therefore, we needed some kind of a vision for the world post 2015. So as you see, the objective was to come out with a set of universal goals, which would be acceptable to all the nations of the world. And since there was a recognition that there was a need for recognizing climate change and other environmental challenges that the world was facing. In fact, some of you may be aware that around the end of 2015, the Paris Accord was also signed on climate change. And there was a great deal of buzz around environmental issues. So there was this need to address this as to how the world would take forward the environmental agenda. And not just that, there was a series of political and economic challenges. As you know, there was the great meltdown that happened during the first decade of this century. And therefore, there was a need to address economic challenges as well as the continuing political challenges, which even today the world faces in the wake of what has been happening in our neighborhood and elsewhere. So this Sustainable Development Goal, the whole concept was actually around a document titled Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And this was adopted by the United Nations on 5th of September 2015. And the starting was 1st of January 2016, and to go for a period of 15 years, which is why the end period is 2030. I mean, if you can just overall, if you see on the slide on the right side, there were 5 pillars on which sustainable development was to stand. One is in terms of the people, and are basically addressing challenges such as poverty and hunger, and to ensure human dignity and equality. The other pillar was prosperity, ensuring that everybody prospers, and it should be sustainable, it should be in harmony with nature. There was talk of peace, which means that we need to have an inclusive society, and we should ensure that conflicts are minimized. And there was a recognition that we alone cannot be carrying forward this agenda. We need to partner across nations, within communities, and therefore the need for partnerships. And finally, recognizing that this planet of ours has finite resources and that climate change is a challenge. We need to protect the planet for our future generations. So these were the 5 Ps, the pillars on which this SDG agenda was set. But just to summarize, as I mentioned, it's an agenda for 15 years. And as Dr. Sujata said, we've already covered about 6 years. There were 17 goals which were enunciated way back in 2015. And these goals, which are some kind of an ultimate ambition for the humanity, these were broken down into 169 targets. Now, targets, as you all know, are specific milestones to reach these goals. And targets would cover areas like, as I mentioned, global change, ending poverty, protection of the planet and its environment, and to ensure overall prosperity for everyone. I'll just highlight those in the next slide. But I want to also mention that when you come out with certain targets, you need to measure we need to measure our progress in achieving those targets. So therefore, the need to have indicators. So you have to have an indicator which you can measure. You have a baseline, say in 2015, then you measure it down the line, and at the end of the period, what that indicator looks like. So there are 232 distinct global indicators for these 169 targets. And the overarching theme of this entire set of indicators is that no one is left behind. In fact, it's very important to realize that this has been adopted across the world. We no longer, want growth to happen only in certain parts or on certain sections of the society. We need everyone to prosper. We need everyone's ambitions to be realized. In fact, the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has been, when he has enunciated his vision for the state for the next 10 years, I think his underlying theme is again the same, which is not to leave anyone behind. This is what Tamil Nadu is about. We are a proud state which believes in equality, social justice, and the concept of having everybody prosper. Now, this is a snapshot of all these 17 goals. It's in one slide, it covers what all, and I'll leave it for a minute for you to go through. As you can see, it covers areas from poverty to hunger, to health, education, gender equality, clean water sanitation, affordable clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, infrastructure, reducing inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water and life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and finally, partnerships, which I mentioned a moment ago. So this is the kind of, the main, our blueprint for the SDGs. Now, what is at the national level, as far as India is concerned, what is the setup that exists to carry forward the SDG agenda? You have the NITI Aayog at the apex level, which is the nodal institution to monitor the SDG agenda. It sees how this agenda is implemented across the country in various states. It also does some kind of a ranking of states and union territories on their achievement of the SDG agenda through what is called an SDG India Index. In fact, the third version has recently come out. Then you have the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which basically is the data focal point for the nation for coordination of all data related. So we pull data from various ministries, from various agencies, from various sources, and use this to actually measure our performance on the indicators. And it also parallelly monitors how globally the SDG agenda is faring, so that we have a benchmark against which we can rate ourselves. And of course, it releases the national indicator framework. So there is this indicators I mentioned, 232 odd indicators for the global indicators. But what India has done is gone a step further and come out with its own national indicators. So our indicators were earlier 305, but it's been revised to 297 now. So we have now what is called a national indicator framework developed by the MOSPI, which incidentally covers all the SDG goals and its indicators, but it's plus that. So all the schemes of the central government are now, their outcomes are measured in terms of these indicators. At the state level, this is the institutional setup. This is a high power committee. There is a high power committee chaired by the Chief Secretary, and the Planning and Development Department, which I head, monitors the overall implementation of the SDGs. What we've done is that at the State Planning Commission level, we have our officers who are actually working on 8 working groups. They support 8 working groups headed by secretaries of key nodal departments, and they basically monitor all these indicators. And the Department of Economics and Statistics of the Government of Tamil Nadu, as in the case of the union government, at the state government level, the department acts as our data focal point. And each of the departments of the government have individual SDG units, so they need to keep on monitoring whether their schemes are in conformity with the SDG agenda and the indicators. This high power committee, as I said, has the chief secretary as the chairman, and then you have members who are basically secretaries of key departments, which are listed here. I mentioned that the NITI Aayog has come out with its SDG index. So it started in 2018, which was kind of a baseline. And during the SDG 1 version, I'm happy to say that at that time itself, Tamil Nadu scored very well. And we were ranked third with a score of 66. And we were just a point behind the 2 leading states of Himachal Pradesh and Kerala. The next year in 2019-20, during SDG 2.0, we maintained our rank of third. And incidentally, Kerala was again the best state. The good news is that in the latest version, SDG 3.0, which came out in 2020, the state of Tamil Nadu has moved up to attain the second rank, just a point behind Kerala. If we look at across these 3 indices, 2018, 19, and 20, and see on each of the SDG goals how the performance of Tamil Nadu has been, this slide captures that progress. As you can see, on the first goal of eliminating poverty, we've improved considerably. If you can see, we are consistently number 1, but even in terms of the points which are given in brackets, we have the highest, points. We've come to 86 points out of 100. And we are the number 1 state in the country as far as elimination of poverty is concerned. Likewise, on attaining zero hunger, we've improved our ranking to 6th, but we still are way behind Kerala, which is the last column shows, the best states in that particular SDG goal. So Kerala continues to top the country, and we are in the 6th rank. So we need to do some catching up, despite the fact that Tamil Nadu has improved itself. Likewise, if you see in health, Tamil Nadu is known to be a state which has a very strong public health infrastructure. And we've been fairly well, in 2nd or 3rd rank. And in terms of the number of points that were assigned to it, we moved up. But then we still are behind a state like Gujarat, which is the national leader. On education, unfortunately, we've slipped a bit, as you can see, and we are fairly below the national leader, which is again Kerala. On gender equality, we can see that we although have improved our position to 4th, but we are still behind a state like Chhattisgarh. In fact, if you see the color coding, it gives you a snapshot. The blue part means that we are a front runner and have points above 65. Yellow shows you are like in the middle category. And the pink ones are those where we need to improve substantially. So although on gender equality, we seem to have marginally improved our overall performance in terms of points, but I think we still have a long way to go. Likewise, I can go on, but then this is a snapshot of how we are performing on all the various goals. Of course, there are areas where we have slipped down, as you can see the last 3 of them, and it shows, how far we are from the front runners in the country. Now, this is just a kind of a snapshot. It gives you your relative ranking vis-a-vis other states. It's not to find fault with anyone or any policies, but it's a way of trying to internally concentrate on certain areas where there is a scope for us to improve. and that we cannot rest on our past performance, on our achievements. So as I said, and what Dr. Sujata mentioned, in order to reach these goals, it's not just that government can do everything. It's all about partnerships. And this is the reason why this conference has been organized, to sensitize the industry, to civil society, to people like you, that all of us have to partner in this. Government cannot alone achieve it. As a society, as a people, we need to work hand in hand. But I'll now focus specifically on the role of corporates in the attainment of SDG goals. As we all know, industry is, if I can use a generic term, corporates, is one of the biggest providers of employment. In fact, most of the growth that we see in the economy is on account of the private sector. And therefore, as an engine of employment, the corporates play a very vital role in our economy. The other major contribution of corporates is on technology and innovation. In fact, some of the best technologies, some of the best innovative practices, as was being mentioned by Mr. Ravichandran, has to come from corporates. And third, of course, apart from government, which is a major spender on infrastructure and services, it is the corporates, the industry, which brings in the investments that leads to growth and jobs. At a global level, I just wanted to mention that there are bodies, which are harnessing the collective power of the corporate world. You have platforms like the UN Global Compact, which has come out with a blueprint for attainment of SDG leadership. And I encourage you all to go to their website and have a look at it. In fact, it talks about two kind of themes. One is, what are the cross-cutting SDG goals, and they have listed out, things like financial innovation, reporting, breakthrough innovation, and decent work in global supply chains as cross-cutting across all SDG goals. So this is something which all businesses, irrespective of what business they are in, they need to involve themselves or concentrate upon. And then there are certain thematic areas. So let's say if you are looking at a pathway to low carbon development, a lot of people talk of climate change and the need for energy transition. So if you need to go in for a low carbon pathway, then which are the SDG goals that you need to focus on? Specifically goals 7, 13, and 8. You can go into details, but what they have done is that if I am looking at the pathway to energy, low carbon energy sources, which Mr. Ravichandran was also mentioning a moment ago, you need to focus on certain specific SDG goals. Likewise, if you are to look at a pathway which leads to healthy and sustainable lifestyles, there are goals under SDG 3, 12, and 17, which would help you attain that particular theme. Then the theme on diversity and inclusion, again, the relevant SDG goals have been listed out. Or let's look at empowerment of vulnerable communities like migrants and refugees. There are a certain set of SDG goals that help you attain that particular theme. So it's a very fascinating, kind of a blueprint that this particular Global Compact has come out with. It's specifically targeted to corporates. I encourage all of you to have a look at it to see how this can be utilized in India. When we come to innovation, there are 4 strategic SDGs that can amplify how corporates can influence and deliver the maximum value. In fact, SDG 2 on zero hunger and SDG 3 on good health and well-being are typically those which are universal. SDG 9, which is on industry innovation and infrastructure and sustainable cities and communities, would look at social value maximization. The details are given, but maybe I can illustrate a couple of them. Mr. Ravichandran talked about the food chain, for example. It's a very important thing. Now imagine 30 to 40% of our perishable food, particularly horticulture crops, are estimated in India to be lost every year due to post-harvest, handling and transportation, what we call post-harvest losses. It's a huge number. Now, what does it do ultimately? If a farmer produces, 100 kilos of a perishable crop, and by the time it reaches the consumer, it's only 60 kg. So what happens is it adds to the cost to the consumer because somebody has to absorb that or pass on the cost of the loss to the consumer. So why is it that on one hand the farmer gets a very, very low value for the crop that he produces, but the consumer on the other end ends up paying a huge price for the product that she purchases? You have intermediaries who will take a part of the value chain. There are costs like transportation, storage, etc. But what about this huge loss due to post-harvest losses? Now, that is an area which corporates can look in because of your strength in handling value chains. And this is a typical example of how it impacts consumers, it impacts producers. He also mentioned very rightly that nutrition is a very major challenge for a country like India. Despite some of the best healthcare systems, especially in states like Tamil Nadu, it's a matter of concern for all of us that anemia, as well as other malnutrition forms like stunting, are a major challenge. Tamil Nadu doesn't perform too well on these areas. Why is it that nearly 50% of our women, pregnant women, continue to be anemic? And that has an impact on the health and well-being of the child. And if a child is born with certain deficiencies and grows up in a suboptimal kind of environment, you are ensuring that the child for the rest of her life will not be able to be a productive citizen in terms of health or educational outcomes. It's an extremely serious problem. And despite all the efforts that we as a community, we as government have been taking over the years, it's still a matter of concern that such a large proportion of our women should be anemic. Such a large proportion of our children below the age of 5 should be having anemia. And this can be easily addressed. This can be easily addressed if we were to just concentrate on these food supply chains, minimize losses, diversify our agriculture to include more vegetables in our diet. These are very doable. There is no rocket science to it. Communities, nations across the world have done it. There's no reason why India, and particularly Tamil Nadu, cannot address this problem. So this is one example of how we need to look at different SDG goals, but ultimately our outcome is to improve the health and well-being of our citizens. Another example I want to give, healthcare. It is known that on an average, India spends about 4% of its GDP on healthcare. And roughly, if you ask me, about less than 1.5% of the GDP comes from government spending on healthcare, and the rest 2.5% plus comes as private sector or out-of-pocket expenditure, which is by citizens like you and me on our health needs. If you look at countries even like Thailand or other developing countries, they spend over 6% of their GDP on healthcare. So one, overall, we need to increase our GDP spend from 4% to at least 6% or more. Second, the spend by government from 1 to 1.5%. Most states spend around this level. We need to increase our overall spend, say from 1.5 to maybe 2 or 2.5%. But for every 1% increase, you're talking huge numbers. Just to give you a sense of the numbers, the budget of Tamil Nadu government on healthcare has consistently been going up, and today we are spending as much as nearly 20,000 crore a year on healthcare. And that, if we need to double, say from 1.5% to even 2.5 or 3%, you need to spend another 20 to 30,000 crore on healthcare. It's a huge, kind of a requirement in terms of budgets. But at the same time, what we need to do is to ensure that people don't end up spending from their pockets. So if government systems are strengthened, if government spends more on public health, naturally the spend by the private sector comes down. People have to spend less from their own pockets. But if you do a comparison, how much it costs a private individual to take private medical help, you'd be surprised to know there are studies that show nearly 10 times the cost of private healthcare for a citizen in India compared to the government private, the same kind of a medical treatment in the government setup is 10 times in the private sector. Now, that's very huge. This is where I think government and the corporates have to sit down together to see how we can bring these costs down so that people don't end up paying from their pocket. There are studies that show that one of the single biggest causes of poverty in India, one of the single biggest reason why people continue to be poor, or if they have come out of poverty but are slipping back into poverty, is because of healthcare costs. The out-of-pocket expenses. All of a sudden, there is an emergency in the family. Somebody is ill. You have to rush him or her to a hospital. If a government PHC or a hospital cannot take care, you rush to the private health provider and end up paying through your nose. You borrow, you go into debt, and that's the cause of poverty. Large number of cases, study after study has revealed how important it is for public health systems to be strengthened. And at the same time, the out-of-pocket expenditure must be reduced through affordable healthcare. So these are areas where, again, government, the private sector need to sit down together to see how at the end we provide affordable healthcare to the poorest of the poor in our country, in our state. As far as, again, corporate activities are concerned, we try to look at, out of these various SDG goals, which are the main goals that can be, or the targets within the goals which can be achieved using the products and services of the corporate sector. I have given a list of several of them. I will not go through each one of them, but there are opportunities for the corporate sector. And I'm not talking of CSR. I mean, I understand that in this particular conference, we are having the CSR representatives of corporates sitting here. This is not about CSR. CSR is just about 2% of your net profits. But your entire business model, the entire business of producing goods and services can be in the sense. I just give a few illustrative targets. I talked about the national indicator framework and the, how they are mapped to the various goals. For example, under goal 5, a target is there. It is mentioned there. You can go through the document and ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision-making in political, economic, and public life. And the indicator for that, one of the indicators is, what is the proportion of women in managerial positions, including women in board of directors in listed companies per 1,000? Any guesses? What is the number as far as India is concerned? You're all management students and practitioners. You know, this is about corporate. In corporate India, for every 1,000 directors, how many women are there?
Less than 1%.
I think somebody mentioned that.
It was Ravi here.
Just about 17%, 170 odd women out of 1,000, which is wholly wrong. Because our goal is to ensure that women get equal opportunity for leadership at all levels. Not just about reserving seats in our legislatures or local bodies, but in board positions as well. Incidentally, if you look at the numbers, they're actually falling. It's not improving over these past 5 years. It's something that cause for concern for corporate India. Target 7.3. By 2030, double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency. I think Mr. Ravichandran mentioned that, so he talked about decoupling of growth with energy. So what we have an indicator which measures how much energy we consume in terms of the primary energy vis-a-vis the GDP. So it's like megajoules, which is a unit of energy per rupee of GDP that we generate. So obviously, if you need to be sustainable, you need to reduce this energy intensity. Our goal is to double the rate of improvement, which means we need to, if we are consuming, say 100 megajoules per rupee, we need to bring it down to 50 by end of 2030. But what is the position today at a national level? We are almost at the same level, maybe slightly improved or whatever. Practically, we are nowhere near doubling it by 2030. So we need to look at why. And one way which he mentioned was this energy transition, move to renewables. But there are huge challenges. I can tell you, I've been in the sector for 3 years. There are huge challenges of converting from coal-based power to renewable energy. There's a separate debate on that. But then it shows that, when it comes to corporates, if corporates can reduce their consumption of energy through energy efficiency measures, greener buildings, energy saving devices, or taking recourse to green power, we can definitely achieve this goal. Target 9.2, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization. And by 2030, significantly raise industry's share of employment and gross domestic product. So one indicator is, what is the percentage share of GVA in manufacturing to total GVA? The GVA is gross value addition, which is another form of gross domestic product. But the second one indicator, manufacturing employment as a proportion of total. So the focus is on manufacturing. We need to increase the share of manufacturing in our GDP basket. Any guesses what is our present share? India, Tamil Nadu? About, again, that magic number of 17%, 16, 17%. And we don't seem to be increasing it despite our move for Make in India and so many other initiatives being taken by center and state. I think this is where industry needs to look at as to why is it that we are not able to become the manufacturing hub of the world. Now people say that, in the new world order, there are companies that are looking to relocate from traditional, economies like China to, say, India. It's a great opportunity. Why are we not grabbing it? And in terms of employment, we are still worse. You know how much of our employment comes from manufacturing? So while manufacturing contributes about 17% to our GDP, the share of employment overall is about 12%. It can give more jobs, but why is it that we are not actually, it's actually coming down over the years, if you see. So we need to look into it. Government cannot just by a magic wand increase the share of manufacturing or jobs in manufacturing sector. It's the industry that has to partner government. We have to look at strategies in partnership with each other as to how to attain this goal. And finally, a target, encourage companies, especially large and transnational companies, to adopt sustainable practices and to integrate sustainability information in their reporting cycle. Now, how many companies actually report in their annual reports on sustainability? So one of the indicators is, what is the proportion of companies? I don't want to alarm you with the numbers, but of course, it's the indicator is not yet finalized. But there is a compliance issue, and forget about the compliance part. I don't think that the concept of sustainability has yet been internalized in a lot of our companies. There are some companies who are doing excellent work, both in the large industry and the MSME sector, but there is a large number of companies, big and small, which need to internalize down to the last employee the concept of sustainability. So therefore, friends, my request is that companies need to internalize SDGs, and those that align their priorities with the SDGs are bound to strengthen their engagement with their customers, with their employees and other stakeholders. In fact, there is a good survey in 2018 done by the World Business Council for Sustainable Development among 250 members. It's just a small sample survey. Interestingly, nearly half the respondent companies, they actually perceived reputational gains, to operate if in case they proved that they were following sustainable practices and they had internalized SDGs, they actually found that there were gains, even as a business from half of them, and only a very small portion thought that this was not important at all. So therefore, to summarize, the SDGs can serve as a roadmap, to help identify future business possibilities. I mean, the whole world is going towards sustainability. There are business opportunities, enormous opportunities, which the corporates can latch on. And at the same time, there is a need, of course, from government side to bring in certain regulatory measures so that everybody kind of contributes to the SDG agenda. But those companies that voluntarily take up the SDG agenda will obviously be ahead of the curve. So before the penal provisions kick in, companies can actually avoid these penalties or higher taxation and actually comply with those regulations as and when they set in. And finally, companies that invest in SDGs actually are bound to meet success. In fact, there's a very nice quote by Mr. Filippo Veglio, MD of the World Council, which says that businesses cannot succeed in societies that fail. It's very clear. If we don't follow the SDG agenda, we'll end up being a failed society, and in a failed society, no business can thrive. So it is in the interest of corporates that they partner with government to ensure that we as a society don't fail on the SDG benchmark. So what do? You invest in people, you invest in inclusive growth, and have resilience to things like conflict, climate change, pandemics, and all these things like investing in people are not just government's responsibility. For example, gender equality cannot be done by government alone. Corporates have to give opportunity to women, give them equal wages. Likewise, inclusive growth, we need to partner. We need to partner the government and the private sector to come out with innovations to address our problems of infrastructure, energy, of water, sanitation, and so on. And ultimately, jobs, which is really required by our youth. And jobs which are inclusive, which don't leave anybody behind. Jobs which provide for everyone, from irrespective of whatever the background. And therefore, friends, my appeal to the members of this association, particularly the corporates, is that you need to internalize SDGs in your work ethic, in your business model, not just for the good of your company, your enterprise, but for the good of society. I won't go into detail for want of time, but ultimately SDG says, what it says is, you do business, but it needs to be inclusive. It needs to be responsible business. And there are any number of good practices, which are available. There are platforms which can allow you to share these practices, learn from these best practices, develop the toolkits, train people within your organizations, so that all of us have this ability to sustain the SDG agenda. So integrate SDGs in your corporate strategies, in your business plans, measure the way government is now measuring through a national indicator framework, and now the state is also coming out with its own state indicator framework. The corporate world can similarly come out with a corporate indicator framework. And I call upon MMA to actually be one of in the forefront to develop such a framework for the corporate sector, so that we measure the way SDG is internalized in the corporate world, and to improve the reporting of these SDGs. So I leave it with this. I thank you for giving me this opportunity, and look forward to further interaction. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor, for that very, very insightful address. I'm sure the industry has taken note of all the recommendations that you have made today here. And it was also encouraging to know how good is Tamil Nadu performing as far as meeting the SDG goals are concerned. So we are aware, sir, you're very busy. There's a lot of work that you have to catch up with. So if there is time, we can possibly take 1 or 2 questions. No, not required. Right, sir. So may I request the President MMA, Mr. C.V. Subbarao, to please hand over a memento on behalf of all the participants here and also on behalf of the members of MMA. May I also request Mr. Subbarao to hand over a moment to Dr. Sujatha, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, Executive Director of MMA, is familiar to all of you all. He's been with MMA since 2007 and has been instrumental in getting MMA where it is today. He is a recipient of the award from the President of India, the Vishisht Seva Medal for his human service in the Indian Air Force. May I request Mr. Group Captain Vijay Kumar to deliver the word of thanks, please.
Thank you, Venkat. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What an inspiring talk by our chief guest, because we have done quite a bit of work on SDG, but it kindled the thought process. One thing I understand we also have work is to say SDG is not the responsibility of the government. It should be a people movement, actually. Everybody should get involved. I think what our chief guest said is really kindle the thought process of many. Now, it's indeed my proud privilege to deliver the formal word of thanks this morning. And first, my sincere thanks to the chief guest for taking time to be with us, in spite of, I know how busy he is with so many planning and things happening in the government of Tamil Nadu. So thanks for really coming and sharing a detailed presentation. And I'm quite sure the large number of viewers who are watching the program on all our social media will really get benefited. And one area where we really pay small little contribution to MMA is in the 4, that is the education sector. But we also closely connected with this 17th goal of the thing, because collaboration, partnership, that's what we are doing. But all the viewers were watching whatever way you should contribute, unless we all work together. I think it's a millennium, the decade of action, what we will think by 2030 we have to achieve. And unless everybody work together, I don't think the dream will be a dream, really, only it will be a dream for again to carry it forward. That. And especially government of Tamil Nadu, when which has really increased the parameters. And if you see, I seen this format about 4 or 5 years back. It should be a couple of reds, which is government amber. Now it's in green, sir. In fact, that is one great achievement. I think the entire credit goes to the government of Tamil Nadu. To some extent, the corporate, what we are able to go to the green and achieve many of the parameters. Yes, some parameters will lag behind. I'm quite sure we all put together. Thank you so much for your presence, sir. You need tremendous value. Ravi, as usual, thanks for joining us from Delhi, and your presence always add value. I know you do quite a bit of work on sustainable development goal, and every time you was the president of MMA, talk to me, you will talk to me quite a lot on sustainable development, the energy, green building, and we always imbibe. You see in our MMA, entire building runs on solar power, and quite a bit of work we do here. Very, very small contribution. Thanks, Ravi. It's indeed a pleasure to have you with us for delivering the keynote address in spite of your being in Delhi. And Dr. Sujatha, thanks for joining us. When she approached us, we straight away accepted, because this is a subject which needs a lot of discussion and move forward. That's why when she said, and she's a very passionate woman, and she's Dr. Sujatha is all the time, he was all the time worried that how we should be take forward, how to get the best speakers. And I really appreciate your passion, madam. I think we'll be happy to delighted to work with you. And Krishnaswamy, especially for joining us from the Spark Capital and bringing your insight that, and Subbarao President for letting us do this event from MMA, for hosting this event. Thanks to the Subbarao for your presence. I know how busy you are too, because we are corporate sector moving on to public and quite a bit of work. And also distinguished panelists who have joined us, and we are going to eagerly waiting to listen to you. Each one of you joined from different locations, Hyderabad, Delhi, and Calcutta, and we are going to listen to very, very insightful from head of CSR from ITC, L&T, and VA Tech back, and also all the viewers watching this program live from different part of the country, and also lady was joined from Ambur. She'll be joining the panelists. We'll be listening to her. We have also then all the viewers, as I mentioned to you, watching YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If somebody is missed, not to worry, the YouTube will be available for next couple of years in our thing. And also all the members who have joined us here, students, some of the students from some other institutions who are MSW and who are doing corporate social responsibility. You are the person who should be taking the message and spread the message across, because you are the future of India. We strongly believe that's the reason we brought you here today. Please take the message, convey the message to as many people as possible so that India becomes a great country, and we are not only settled on that goal, we should be achieving our self-sustenance in every field, because that is what is matters today. And thanks to all my MMA team for putting this together and making it a great event, Shankar and all our thing, and MC Good Captain Venkat for taking a great job. Now we are on 11:15. We don't know because all the panelists are already joined. I recommend, if you all agree with you, that we'll continue with the panel discussion. And anybody who would like to have a cup of tea, just quietly slip out, have a quick tea and come back. Is it okay, Venkat? Let's do that so that we don't waste any time today for a break, because the panelists already joined us from different part of the country. We don't want to miss out and waste their time. And thanks once again to each one of you, and it is a pleasure to have you with us.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue with the panel discussion. May I request Mr. Krishna Swamy to join Dr. Sujata on stage? And of course, may I also request Ms. Ayesha to join the panelists on the stage. As you're all aware, we are also joined online by Mr. Pradeep Panigrahi. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us online. We're joined by Mr. Rajneesh Chopra. Thank you for joining us online from there, sir. And Mr. Prabhakar Lingireddy, who joined us from Hyderabad all the way. So just in a couple of minutes from now, we will be commencing our panel discussion. As Group Captain Vijay Kumar mentioned, anyone who's keen on having a cup of tea can have a quick cup of tea and come back. And we will move on to the panel discussion very soon.